Last week, the game we looked forward to possibly the most was Muskego taking on Mukwonago. Muskego actually jumped out on them and was in control pretty much throughout, and that's great news for them. But then the sad news is that their opponent this week, Waukesha South, not able to play. Travis Wilson, the general manager of WSN, always in tune with these things. And of course, we know that South had a lot of injury issues there, but Muskego having to go without a game this week, just how are they going to respond to that? And it's just always a sad, sad time when this happens to teams.
Yeah, really unfortunate because it really had been a huge time for Muskego. Last week was homecoming for them. They got a big win, as you said, against Mukwonago. Great game, several thousand people there, one of the better attended games that I have seen. A big win over your rival. On Saturday, Muskego grad Hunter Wohler had 2 interceptions for the Badgers. Things were rolling for Muskego, it seemed like. And then they got the call earlier this week that Waukesha South was going to cancel because of low numbers and injuries that they've had in the program. I talked to their head coach, Ken Krause, and their athletic director, Ryan McMillan. They had tried to find a game. Unfortunately, there's nobody open in the state of Wisconsin. They had looked all over. They looked in Illinois, Iowa, Minnesota, Michigan. Could not find an opponent. So they will not be playing this week, unfortunately. And it is an unfortunate situation. Unfortunately, it happened last year, too, with Waukesha South having to cancel their last 2 games of the season in a similar situation. Now, Muskego was not one of those games last year, but South is in a difficult position. And they have asked out of the Classic 8 conference for a number of years. They and Waukesha North have asked out for a while. Had not been able to facilitate that. The WIAA and the task force that handles conference realignment had not been able to make that work. But next year, they are moving out of the Classic 8 and moving into a situation they feel will be a little bit better. They'll be with some competition they feel will give them a better chance to compete. Now, that being said, anytime a team is struggling, a conference change is not going to be the magic bullet. It's not going to be the thing that will all of a sudden turn them into a good program. There's a lot of internal issues that any school in that situation has to identify and has to fix. But hopefully this will give them a better shot going forward. It does leave Muskego in a tough spot, though. They are without a game this week, could not find one. Those seniors lose out on one more opportunity, but they get a win. They do clinch a playoff spot. I think maybe the first team that has clinched a playoff spot officially, is they now have 4 conference victories. So a week off, rest up, and then they get back to it in Classic 8 play next week. A big one in the Parkland Conference and Catholic Memorial. Like you said, they got off to a slow start. Lost 2 games, including that week 2 shocker when they were running clocked by Marquette. Went into Parkland play, things got a little bit easier for them. They were able to regroup and have gotten some wins. But New Berlin West is a tough opponent. I tell you, that program under Ben Chosick at New Berlin West really has taken a step up and forward the last couple of years. A smash-mouth football team with a couple really punishing running backs and a really physical front line. So it's going to be tough for Catholic Memorial. Another team that was off to a slow start that we've talked about before, I think, is Fond du Lac. And the Cardinals were 0-4 to start the year against a very tough schedule. They had a tough one last week against Kaukauna, who was undefeated, had impressive wins on the year, but Fond du Lac was able to get on the board and get a win in that one. So playoff hope's not dead yet for Fond du Lac. Still on life support a little bit are the Cardinals, but they've got a little bit easier to go of it the rest of the way as the tougher part of their schedule is out of the way. And other teams that are in that situation that maybe didn't have the start that they hoped for, this is a big week. This is a big turning point week as they try to turn the tables, try to get things back on track, and get back in the winning column.
We're pretty far into this season and they have not been challenged yet. And of course, Kenosha St. Joe's is one of those. I think looks like they've outscored their opponents 219-20 this year. How does a coach keep their attention? Obviously, there are teams that they can beat even if they're not playing at their absolute best. When coaches have to try and make sure they have their kids' attention, because when the playoffs start, there are going to be challenges.
Yeah, and that is a challenge. That is a challenge for teams that maybe are in a weaker conference or maybe are just that good that they aren't getting challenged on a week-to-week basis. A team like Kenosha St. Joseph, Waunakee, even though they went out and scheduled pretty tough in the non-conference, they're going to run away with the Badger Large after beating Sun Prairie East earlier this year. It is a challenge. And as I talk to coaches around the state, there's so many things that go into being successful. And there's so many things that go into kids' lives as well. We sometimes forget these are 15, 16, 17-year-old kids in a lot of situations. that it's hard to keep their focus on track just normally, let alone when they're not really being challenged week in and week out. So that is a tough ask for teams. But the better programs, they have dealt with it before. They have found ways to keep kids engaged, not let the foot off the gas. And that's truly a sign of a good team, a great team, is when you just stomp the competition. You don't play down to your competitive level. You continue to play up. And those are the teams that go through the season undefeated and then continue to have success in the postseason.
Give me some of the best matchups of the week that we can expect starting tomorrow night.
Well, our Quick Trip in Wisconsin Dairy game of the week is in the Eastern Wisconsin Conference, as that will feature Two Rivers at Kohler, Sheboygan Lutheran, Sheboygan Christian. Two Rivers undefeated this year. They really pushed Catholic Memorial in the playoffs last year, and they're looking to make some noise in Division 4 this season, especially with defending champion Columbus dropping down to D5 this year, it appears. Some rivalry games, some big games in the southwest part of the state. You've got Darlington at Mineral Point, which is the third most played rivalry in state history. The first meeting between those teams was 1894. Darlington has dominated that one, 90-26 with 5 ties in 121 previous meetings. But that is first place on the line in the SWAL. In the SWC, the Southwest Conference, you've got Lancaster at Platteville. Maybe not the teams we thought were going to be at the top of that league. We thought probably Broadhead Judah and Prairie du Chien would battle it out there. But these teams are 3-0, and this is for first place in that conference. And then a huge one in the Scenic Bluffs Conference. We have 1 versus 2 in Division 7. Top-ranked Cashton takes on second-ranked Bangor, and a huge matchup in the South Central and a huge matchup in Division 7 that will have implications for not only the conference standing, but also seeding, placement, all kinds of postseason implications in that one as well.
Describe what home field pride is and why you have so much pride in it.
Well, we have been fortunate to work with Midwest Sport and Turf Systems the last couple years on the Home Field Pride Contest, where we want to find and recognize the outstanding facilities and specifically football fields that have been installed in the state of Wisconsin by the great folks at Midwest Sport and Turf Systems. Our first year we did it a couple years ago, Amherst won that competition. They had a great new turf field up there. Their community really got behind this campaign. They had done great fundraising to get the field in the first place. And then when we had done the Home Field Pride campaign and they were nominated, they had some businesses step forward that said, hey, we want to be involved in this as well. We want to make some additional donations. And it went from the $1,000 prize that we awarded along with Midwest Sport and Turf Systems, but it was over $20,000 that they raised as part of that, where people stepped forward and said, hey, we want to donate $1,000, or we want to donate $100 or $20, whatever it might be, to our athletic department to continue to improve our facilities and our opportunities for our student athletes. It was a really cool opportunity to see them. Again, they won the competition, which was awesome. And then they raised an additional almost $30,000 towards their athletic programs as part of that, which is really cool to see. And again, that's what it's all about, having pride in your community, in your school. Last year, Delavan Darien took home the prize. So this year, we're at it again, looking for a new Home Field Pride winner. Each week for the next 5 weeks will be group voting of 10 schools where you can vote on who has the best football field. We have Group 1 voting going on right now, and then Group 2 next week. At the end of the finals, there will be a $1,000 donation made to the winning school to their athletic department. And again, we're trying to recognize those schools that have made great investments in their facilities and in their football fields. And again, a big thank you to our friends at Midwest Sport and Turf Systems for allowing us to do that.
Just going through the site, and you're so complete with your coverage. When did we get so many good punters? That was I remember growing up, and even 5-10 years ago, I don't remember this many kids who averaged 42, 43, 44 yards of punt. The emphasis on that is becoming a weapon. Did you notice that coaches started talking about this? They want to develop punters? Because last week, obviously, we spotted young Mr. West from Homestead as a kicker. But when punting became such a big part of what's going on here, when did you kind of spot that was happening?
It's certainly been an evolution. We've had some very good specialists in the state of Wisconsin. That Kevin Stemke, who our Kevin Stemke Award is named after, Ken DeBausch. There's been some really good punters and kickers that have come out of the state of Wisconsin. And you mentioned Sean West, very highly rated kicker and punter from Homestead. There's Eric Schmidt, who is a junior at Marquette that already has a preferred walk-on offer from Wisconsin. but it's really been an evolution over the years. It used to be, a kid that kicked and punted was just a kid that did that because he was good at it, in addition to, playing a regular spot or playing elsewhere. And there are some kickers and punters that are very good that do play other positions. We saw Sean West with a touchdown last week in that game against Hartford. But there's a lot of specialization that's happening now as well, where those kids are going out and getting training in the offseason devoted to being a kicker, a punter, and long snapper is another emerging field. And they're getting college opportunities because of that. And so we're seeing more and more investment in special teams, in kickers and punters at the high school level, because they're seeing those opportunities at the next level. And again, they're putting loads of time and effort and energy into being involved in their craft, perfecting their craft, becoming a better kicker, punter, or long snapper. And so we just continue to see that improvement at the high school level.
And when it comes to the best coverage of high school sports, we know you'll never punt. Travis, have enjoyed the second half. Thanks so much for joining us this week.
Well, John, I appreciate it. I'm the JV football coach at Reedsburg, and I joke, I guess, that we are team no punt. We are trying never to punt. We did twice last game. We had not the previous two games, but offense, no punting.